Hey guys, real quick just before I get into the video, I just wanted to say a thank you for all the support on the last couple of videos and the insane growth on this channel within the last week. It's been pretty crazy to go from less than 100 subscribers to over 1,000 in this time frame, so I just wanted to say a quick thank you. It's much appreciated and I can't wait to keep bringing out more videos. If you take a look at David Fincher's work, you'll find his debut Alien 3, a nail-biting film when Fincher gets the chance to shine, but otherwise a pretty studio-interfered cash grab. The biographical dramatized adaptation of the story of the founding of Facebook, another film noir biographical drama about the screenwriter of Citizen Kane, and an exploration of the life of a man who ages in reverse. But for the most part, David Fincher has operated within the thriller genre with films like Panic Room and The Game, and has redefined the genre with films such as Se7en and Fight Club, and then later on in his career redefining it again with more modern thrillers such as Zodiac, Gone Girl, and A Girl with a Dragon Tattoo. Throughout all of his films, whether they're within or outside the thriller genre, you'd be hard pushed to find a simple David Fincher film. Fight Club and Se7en have some of the most iconic twists in film history. The Social Network and The Curse of Benjamin Button play around with structure and how they present their stories. Mank stylistically is unlike anything Fincher had ever done before. Zodiac's time frame spans 15 years and forces its audience to become investigators in the case themselves. The Game is one huge joke, and Panic Room, up till now his most simple film in plot, is still ultra stylized. With his latest film, The Killer, a film about a hitman who messes up a hit, and as a result of that, the job crosses from emotionally distant and professional to personal when someone he cares about gets caught in the crossfire. The Killer is Fincher back to form, doing what he does best, immaculately crafting a thriller film with constantly increasing tension, yet it's his most simple work. You can practically watch this film with no sound for the most part, and I'm sure you'd still have a good idea of what was going on. Although don't do that, because the sound design and Michael Fassbender's narration is absolutely incredible. There's a phrase in the film that the killer constantly and coldly utters, saying,
"Stick to the plan. Stick to your plan. Stick to the plan."
And so the film does. It's very procedural. There's nothing complicated about the story. Everything that happens in the film plays out exactly how you would expect it to play out. It's not exactly an original concept. These kind of films that follow cold hitmen have been done before multiple times, but boy does it make me happy to see Fincher tackling this. And as I expected, he absolutely smashed it. Usually the way these films go, the cool agent or the hitman will fight through hordes of henchmen to get their target in the most badass way, but The Killer is much more about the process and the planning than it is the moments of action itself. As you watch the film, it's unmistakably Fincher in every aspect. Everything is precisely timed, with the camera accounting for every millimeter of movement from the killer. But this isn't the Fight Club era Fincher with the brutal in-your-face and ultra-stylized filmmaking. Rather, this film, in style, just like the story, is pretty simple in comparison to some of his other works. But it's a classic case of less is more. Fincher trades the aggressive sense of direction in his previous thrillers for something a lot more sleek and elegant. It's still very stylish, just more in a laid-back sense. The film begins with a classic David Fincher in-your-face opening credits sequence reminiscent of Fight Club. It's so cool, but then these opening credits just kind of abruptly stop and then pushes you into the film. It's like Fincher right from the get-go saying he's making this film a little differently and it's going to be a lot more simple and blunt. The film is full of classic Fincher filmmaking. As I already mentioned, the precise tracking remains. It's obviously an extremely well calculated and expertly crafted film, but there is one slight difference between this and his other works. When you look through Fincher's filmography, you will find a very small amount of handheld shots. To Fincher, the camera has always represented this omniscient entity that is entirely distant, only moving into a handheld camera when a moment absolutely calls for it. But here you'll find him utilizing handheld more than he usually would, because the style wants to reflect the killer as much as possible. The camera is calm and steady in the build up to his job, but erratic and confused when he misses and loses control. This technique is utilized multiple times in the film, examples being here in the opening after he misses, here when he searches the house worried for his partner's safety, and suddenly here after he's jumped and it leads into what is one of Fincher's biggest and most tightly choreographed fight scenes in his entire career. A fight scene that feels almost like something out of Netflix's Daredevil in how brutal and intricate it is. But you can honestly make the argument here that this is his most personal film. Rarely has Fincher allowed emotion to seep through into his work, and when he does, it never gets involved with that emotion. We as an audience just have to sit back and watch the characters run through their emotions, and Fincher always performs the task of making a film as methodical as he can, just like The Killer. But here, as I said, the emotion is seeping through. There's a focus on human nature as explored in Tilda Swinton's character and her story of the bear. And The Killer's shaken but masked emotional core is matched by a slight change in Fincher's filmmaking. And don't get me wrong, I get why this film might not be what some people wanted from a new Fincher film. It's his long-awaited return to the genre, and perhaps people were expecting him to redefine the genre again, instead of following along its already well-established tropes in this simplistic manner. The film, from what I've gathered, has seemed to gain mostly positive but still fairly mixed reviews, especially when compared to some of his most notorious films. But for me, this is kind of everything I wanted from a new Fincher movie. He has already done so much for the genre, so seeing him just kind of have fun within these tropes and play around with them, twisting them slightly but not shattering the mold, made for an incredibly fun experience. As I mentioned earlier, this Hitman story is nothing new, but it defies the Hollywood badass trope of these characters, and as well as that, he still manages to incorporate previous themes that he's explored. The film acts as an almost thematic sequel to Fight Club in its notes on consumerism. The Killer is navigating this world that is reliant on brands and products, fast food like McDonald's and the delivery services of that food, the expensive gyms, the Amazon lockers, and the multiple car rental services are both overbearing but tools to help him kill. The Killer wants to be in control. It's his arrogance that's deluded him into believing that he's different, that he's special. But across the film, we see him beginning to slip up, making mistakes on the job and grappling with the mask of control slipping. It's like with Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver. All he's consumed with on the streets of New York is violence, pornography, and poverty, so in the end he is conditioned to be defined by such. The Killer is conditioned by a world of advertisements, brands, and corporations, and they have the control, not him, and where he uses their products and their services to assist him in being this Grim Reaper means he's no better than anyone else. He's not in control because he's a consumer. The fight scene that I had previously mentioned works not just as a display of technical craft, but also hits to the emotional core of the film, as it's where the Killer is not only truly losing control, not just making a mistake, but almost losing his life. He gets outsmarted by the target, who uses his shower as a decoy and also physically gets outmatched. Even in the end, where he has the gun pointed at the billionaire, his target, he lets him live because of the attention killing him would attract, so even then he's not as in control as he thinks he is. In the end, he's just one of the many, not the few.
Maybe you're just like me. One of the many.
And David Fincher has had this fascination with control over his entire career. In Se7en, the third act relies heavily on the shift of control between the detectives and John Doe. Fight Club is not just a commentary on how we're being controlled by objects and what we own, but explores this fight for control between the narrator and Tyler Durden, and Gongo explores the controlling dynamics of a relationship. But here in The Killer, it kind of mirrors Fincher's perception of control as a filmmaker, in how he can always be the creative head, but ultimately the studios hold a power above his own. Tilda Swinton's character recites a joke of a bear and a hunter. The ultimate question posed from it is,
and the bear squints. You're not really out here for the hunting, are you?
I wonder if the same reason the Killer continues his job despite already having all the money he'll ever need and having to try and find this sense of control is the same reason why Fincher continues to make movies and why he was specifically attracted to this project. And perhaps it speaks to the nihilistic nature of Fincher and his work too. Either way, The Killer, despite how simple it is, still has a lot of nuance to unpack. It feels very personal despite the film incessantly telling us it isn't. It all makes for one of the most interesting films I've seen this year, as well as one I worry about being a bit underappreciated. But anyways, thank you very much for watching this video. Again, thank you for all the support recently, and I hope you enjoyed this. But for now, take care.